I'm wondering if she wasn't dying then. But then when they got through praying for her, they turned around and surrounded me and knelt down in front of me and placed their hands on my head and prayed for me. And you know how a little kid will do. I was feeling down in the side of the couch like this, and I can remember my dad saying, "Jimmy, what in the world are you," when they got through praying, he said, "Jimmy, what in the world are you doing?" And I said, "I'm hunting for money." I can remember that.
That was his call to ministry.
Yeah, I can remember that.
And you couldn't have been more than what, 3 or 4?
I was 4 years old.
Okay.
I was 4 years old the day she died. And I've often thought that probably was the time that she died. I don't know. Because I was there, Dad was there, and Reverend Johnson was there, and the evangelist was there. I don't know who the evangelist is. But in the papers you gave me, her funeral announcement that was in the Palladium tells that Reverend Johnson was a pastor.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And I couldn't have been more than 4.
All right, let me ask you this one last question of each of you, and we'll to finish this up, at least for this session. Do you know how your parents how they decided to name you the name that they gave you, the first and middle name? Start with Jim. The story behind your name.
I don't know for sure. James, I have an uncle, Jim, my dad's younger brother. I have a Jimmy Courtwright, James Courtwright, who was my mother's brother. And I have a great uncle, Jim Hoover, who was my mother's uncle. But I know where the name Albert came from. My middle name is Albert. My mother had a favorite, she referred to him as her uncle, but he wasn't her uncle. He was the brother of my Aunt Idie Courtwright. And he lived at Greenville, Ohio. He was a farmer and was a member of the First Pilgrim Holiness Church at Greenville, Ohio. And his name was Albert Grimm. And she thought so much of him, she named my middle name after him.
Marlene, do you know how your name got picked?
Marlene, mother used to listen to the soap opera on the radio, Larry Noble's Backstage Wife.
Oh, yes.
And one of his affairs was with a woman named Marlene. And she thought it was a beautiful name. She didn't like the woman, but she thought the name was beautiful. My second name, Rose, they named me after my great-grandmother, but I was grown when Grandma Adams, who never had much to say, told Dad that her name was Rosa, not Rose. So I was glad he thought the name was Rose. So I like Rose better than Rosa. That's the story of my name.
All right,
I
Dad.
don't know where your name
Mendel?
came from.
Yeah, Mendel. That name's got me in a lot of doors. Dad, Earl, was a teenage farmhand for a Jewish farmer who was also a clothier at a haberdashery there in Richmond, and his name was Mendel Safer. His parents were Orthodox Jewish, and the name, actually I found out, the name Mendel means the consolation of the Lord, the E-L for the Lord, like Bethel is the house of the Lord, and Israel is the one who wrestles with the Lord. So Mendel means the consolation of the Lord. I told my mother that I was her consolation prize. The other thing it means in parlance is tinkerer, and a tinkerer is the guy that fixes holes that appear in pots and pans, and the tinkerer would go around and would take clay and make a little deal on there, and then pour
I don't
molten.
think Mother and Daddy knew that.
Pour,
No
pour,
one they named.
no, they wouldn't, but that's what the name is. And then pour molten metal on it, and then let it cool, and then when it had cooled, they would brush away the clay, and those little things were called the Tinker's Dam. So you heard the story, it's almost not worth the Tinker's Dam. That's not cussing. That has to do with that clay that you just brush away after you repair a pot. So I guess it has something to do with me being a potty mouth. I don't know. Mendel comes from that. Eugene, the name came from mother's brother Norman Eugene, and so I was given his name as a middle name.
Now,
Cecil's middle name was Eugene too.
Yes.
there was also a story that when Grandma was pregnant with you, there was a different name picked out for you.
Peter Isaac, yes.
Oh, that's what Aunt Ethel called him.
You're
She
PI.
always called,
She called me P.I.
yeah, but it was short for.
Well, wasn't there also that you couldn't say Mendel, so you used to call him P.I. when you were little?
Before I was born, I think that's right.
I don't remember that. Do you remember that?
No, but I remember.
That's what
Remember
Grandma's.
the voice?
That's what Grandma used to
Now-
say.
Now, don't go there. You
I may
can't
have,
use that.
I may have thought of him as a PI, but I never. I know one thing, when he was born, I was awfully happy. I was tickled to death when my little sister was born. I remember going over to Whitey Kessler's store in Fairview. We lived at 1344 Hare Street then with the Solomons, and I went into Whitey Kessler's not sports store, but grocery store, and they were giving away suckers, and Marlene was just born, and so I asked him if I could have a sucker for my little baby sister, and I've never lived that one down, but
Did
I
you
never
give it
did
to
get
her?
it.
I know I ate but and then when they told me I had a baby brother, I was elated. But
Well, when Mom and Dad were married, Mother says you said to her during the reception, and I hope you have 1,000 kids.
yeah, I probably did. I wanted a brother and a sister so bad.
But after Mendel was born, Mother said enough.
Did what?
Mother said enough after Mendel was born.
Yeah,
She didn't
yeah,
want to have a
yeah.
thousand.
She didn't want 1,000. Right. You know, there's one thing I want to say before you're through, Vicki.
Okay.
Your grandmother, Blanche
Godsey.
and your grandfather, Sil Godsey, were, though I didn't live with Marlene and Mendel, and I didn't live with my dad and stepmother, they were like grandparents to me. I was always welcome at their house. Your grandmother treated me with the utmost love and respect, and I've always appreciated and loved your grandmother, or your great grandmother, Blanche Godsey and Sil Godsey. They were good people.
She's spirit-filled woman.
She was an old-fashioned shouting
Yes, she was.
Pilgrim Holiness lady,
Mhm.
and she was a good lady.
And she made good chicken and dumplings.
The best.
Let's don't go there.
But she didn't like when I put my little box turtle on her Bible.
Yeah.
She didn't like that at all.
She wouldn't eat devil's food cake,
Right.
Or
nor
drink root beer.
or drink or yeah.
We even tried to call it hallelujah juices, she still won't drink
Oh, dear.
All right, well, thank you all very much for allowing me to record your memories. I know there's a lot more,
it.
but
Thank you.
we've done almost an hour, so.
Now that you've got that
You're
off,
not gonna
now
put all that on